Back when I started this channel, I was riding the 24-inch inspired arcade. Some people might think I did my best riding on this model, but I'm not so sure. Even if I couldn't ride it well all the time, it was definitely a cool bike. But what happened to my last red one before I went back to 26-inch? Well, I still have it. I have such a fond history of the arcade, it's a bike I'd never sell. It wasn't strictly my signature model, but I certainly had a big helping hand in its development process and spent lots of my favourite riding moments on one. This was the model to try and entice BMXers over to trials. It took a few influences from the BMX world, and I even had prototypes with mid-BBs. The mid-BB never stuck, but the steel frame and shorter, steeper geo did, and over the years, extra tweaks like drop-in headsets and built-in seat clamps were added. It looks like the cute thief has been taking shortcuts though. Here I am thinking he travels far and wide to collect parts when he's actually just stealing parts from my own bikes. So that's today's job. Replace the missing parts and give it a bit of TLC, as it's been stood for a few years and is feeling a bit deflated. First up, I'm going to fit these Inspired Pro integrated cranks. They're the first cranks I've ever seen with a built-in bash guard. You'll find these fitted to the Inspired Pro models, and they're stronger and smaller than using a traditional 4-bolt crank and bash combo. Now while the bash is integrated, the chainring isn't, so you can replace that when worn. You get a nice external arse bearing too, and this system will be an easy install on any threaded Street Trials frame. See? Easy peasy. And with the cranks fitted, it already looks less sad. Next up, let's breathe some life into the rear round. First, off comes the rotor. And then the tyre. Now I had these set up as tubeless, and I actually totally forgot that I used to make my own inserts. Now amazingly, the sealant is still wet. I fully expected this to have all dried and glued everything together. But with it being wet still, it meant the tyre came off nice and easily. It will also make cleaning the rim much easier too. Although the outside does need a little chemical help. That's tickety-boo, that is. The rear tyre is a little worn, and I do have this brand new Conti tyre taking up space, so I may as well treat the bike with at least one new shoe. My generosity knows no limits. I totally forgot how stiff these tyres are though. Seeing as it's smaller than my usual tyre, it's a lot heavier. Now my plan was to run these tubeless again, but this proved to be easier said than done. I just couldn't get the tyre to seat. I tried for a while using a few different techniques and making a mess, but I think this was the bike's way of telling me that tubeless probably isn't the best idea this time. This bike actually isn't going to be ridden much, and tubeless will leak or dry out over time. So in this instance, the simplicity and lack of maintenance of tubes is probably the smarter choice. Unfortunately, I've only got a limited number of tubes, and I found this 20-inch tube which was left over from my BMX build. But one great aspect of rubber is its stretchiness. These tubes won't take the abuse of bigger tubes or tubeless, but at least I can store the bike and know I won't need to faff about with dried sealant if I fancied a ride. Oh boy, that was more work than I anticipated. It's a good job I'm not charging myself by the hour. But with the back one now done, it's time to do the steery one. I'm a curious guy. Can I just inflate this tubeless tyre that's been sat for 4 years? No Christmas miracles today. It did inflate, but it's far from sealed. Time to stick a tube in. Ha, another unexpected homemade insert. It's not had an easy life, but I'm pleased to see my join is still strong. After a clean and some fresh rim tape, I add another incorrect sized tube, this time a 27.5 inch, which in hindsight probably should have gone in the rear. Again, not ideal, but until that lucrative inner tube sponsorship comes knocking, this will have to do. Time to upgrade the stoppers, off with the plastic and on with some Dominions, starting with the rotors. I've always used 2 or 3mm rotors, even on 24-inch wheels, but after riding my 26-inch for the last few years, these now look comically oversized. No such thing as too much power though. Time to properly fit the rear wheel, and I've had to steal back my arcade tensioners from my Dirt Jump Street Trials bike. It's a little bent, but still works, and it's obviously a perfect match for this frame. Now it's just occurred to me I hadn't taken the old brake off yet, so let's do that. Once off, I tighten the chain and centre the wheel in the frame. Once done, I complete the set by fitting the front. With the rotors and rounds fitted, time to fully remove the old brakes and get the new ones fitted. You should know by now that the Hayes Dominion A4 is my favourite ever brake, and I'm not being paid to say that. I only wish I'd gotten these back when I rode this bike full time. It would have been a lot less stressful. As usual on my Street Trials bikes, I route the front brake up the steerer tube. Once the brakes are fitted, I complete the job with some fresh bar mittens. The last job is to fit some foot pegs. Despite wearing a pinned t-shirt, which is a Scottish brand who makes some of the best pedals in the world, I'm fitting these nylon inspired ones because I simply don't have enough pairs of pins to go around. Not to say these inspired ones are bad by any means, and for this bike they do the job nicely. So with those fitted, the bike is rideable once again. I just need to get things straight and tight, and then I can hop down memory lane by doing some hops. Only one issue: Scotland has an infestation of ice. This isn't the most ideal weather for street trials, so looks like I won't be pushing any riding boundaries today. But it's not going to stop me from having a simple test ride. It feels a lot weirder than I remember. It almost feels a bit too extreme now. This has the steepest head angle of any inspired, and after riding the 26-inch hex, which is only slightly slacker, this feels quite bizarre. Not to say it feels bad, I'd get used to it pretty quickly, but I'm surprised how noticeable it is. And speaking of noticeable, the tyre weight is immediately apparent. They have nice dampening effect, so would make kickers and drops sting less, but I can definitely feel it when turning and spinning. So there we have it. The bike I'm probably still known best for riding is alive and well, and I'm sure a lot of you will be stoked to see it again. I love how it's only had minor tweaks since the first prototypes 10 years ago. This was the first 24-inch to really have short chainstays, and it took a while for other models to catch up. Though one update I would like to see is post mounts on the frame and fork like the other inspired models. The cute thief wasn't born when I originally got this bike, but I think he likes it, unlike the cold weather. If I was to build this bike from scratch, I'd love to fit some 24-inch carbon rims from Light Bicycle and some lighter tyres. The Schwalbe Billy Bonkers come in 24-inch and tan wall, which I think would be cool to try too. Let me know if you'd like to see something like that in the future. I'd love to know your thoughts about the arcade. I'm not sure if I'll be riding this anytime soon, I'll pin a comment as to why, but I think it's a great looking bike that's brought me lots of good memories and it's a bike I'll never sell. Now if you like my content, give me a sub and a like to let me know. Have a great week and I'll see you soon. Take care everyone, bye bye.